China has announced plans to further develop Shenzhen into a global business center in an apparent bid to reduce mainland dependence on Hong Kong. Beijing released guidelines on making Shenzhen a pioneering area of socialism with Chinese characteristics that will lead the world in economic competitiveness by 2035. Under the new framework, the city will enjoy wide-ranging favorable policies such as yuan internationalization as well as upgrades across healthcare and education. Beijing will also promote further opening up of the financial markets. International firms would be encouraged to set up shop, and foreign permanent residents would be allowed to launch science and technology enterprises. Chinese media said the city will be a better place compared with its neighbor, Hong Kong. The policy document also outlined an intention for Shenzhen's greater integration with Hong Kong and Macau to enrich the practice of one country, two systems. And the new framework, which was announced on Sunday, follows 11 continuous weeks of protests in Hong Kong. Now, for more, we're joined by Dr. Pradeep Taneja, lecturer in Asian politics at the University of Melbourne. Thank you very much, Dr. Pradeep, for joining us. First up, let's look at the timing. Is this a strategic announcement by Beijing in light of what's happening in Hong Kong, or has China always wanted to, up Shenzhen's profile and its economic sphere?
Well, we know the Chinese government has been working on this Greater Bay Area plan. We know that a research center has been set up to look at how these 11 cities around South China, Hong Kong, Macau, Shenzhen, Guangzhou, and others can be integrated into a common plan. But I don't think there was any firm plan, and therefore this would seem very suspicious to me. The timing seems very suspicious to me. I think this is an attempt to hurry up and find a way to try and convince people in Hong Kong the Chinese government has plans to open up the whole of the region, not just Hong Kong. And therefore, it would seem to me that it is closely related to the situation in Hong Kong at the moment.
Okay, but saying that, do you think Shenzhen then can actually be the new Hong Kong if that's the case?
I don't think so. I mean, Hong Kong is Hong Kong is what it is because of Hong Kong's legal system, the fact that Hong Kong for a long time has maintained an independent judiciary, which was likely to be continued for 50 years after the return of sovereignty over Hong Kong to China. And Hong Kong has, in terms of legal systems, still retained the confidence of the international business community, in civil society, and therefore Hong Kong's system is based on a completely different framework. And I don't think Shenzhen is going to be able to replicate that because China really has hit a wall when it comes to political reform. And you cannot really bring about substantial or significant reforms to Shenzhen's system without significant political reforms.
But saying that, though, Shenzhen also wants to attract talent in high-tech industries. They've already begun tax initiatives with rates lower than Hong Kong. Do you think that will help? Or what other ideas do you see China then doing for Shenzhen to be competitive?
I mean, I think the struggle to make Shenzhen as attractive as Hong Kong has been going on for a long time. And some of Shenzhen's taxation policies will certainly attract some people. But overall, I can't see Shenzhen replicating Hong Kong, particularly because the institutions that make Hong Kong what Hong Kong is cannot be recreated, cannot be transplanted in the Shenzhen Special Economic Zone, whether independently or as part of a Greater Bay Area plan, unless the Chinese authorities are willing to make significant reforms in administration, in public policy, and in fact, political reforms.
All right, so, Beijing wants Shenzhen to attain comprehensive economic abilities by the year 2035 and be a global benchmark for competitiveness, innovation, and influence by the year 2050. But from what you're saying, it doesn't seem realistic then, these timelines.
Well, if you look at the 19-point plan that the Chinese media has sort of published for Shenzhen's future, it doesn't seem very specific. Many of the statements in that plan are motherhood statements. These are plans which are very vague. For example, take the point about political reform. It says that Shenzhen people would be given the right to participate in the political process under the guidance of the Chinese Communist Party. What exactly does that mean? I mean, under the guidance of the Chinese Communist Party, what kind of political reform or political participation are we talking about? So this kind of language doesn't really instill a great deal of confidence about this plan.
So Beijing's policies, you mentioned earlier, have traditionally been top-down, but it looks like this new approach is being seen as perhaps maybe somewhat of a bottom-up initiative. Question is, how far does it actually signal Beijing's desire to be experimental and to actually boost its innovation-focused strategy here, though?
They've tried that before. Around 2003, 2004, there was a plan, it was called the Sanfenzhi, to essentially have some kind of separation of powers in Shenzhen. And we know that after initial attempts, that plan also failed because the central government in Beijing really wasn't willing to relinquish control over the political process, over the administrative process in Shenzhen. And I think this plan is also doomed to fail unless there is significant political reform in Beijing and therefore in other parts of China, including in Shenzhen.
Oh, thank you so much for your analysis. We've been speaking with Dr. Pradeep Taneja, lecturer at Asian politics at the University of Melbourne.